Renee Souci is a teaching artist and cultural consultant, enrolled member of the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. With a degree in education from UNL and being an Omaha woman and practitioner of Native traditional lifeways, Souci combines her life experiences with a learning process that helps all learners to engage in their own cultural identities, languages, and spiritual beliefs. Her hope is that the students' learning will be enhanced through her teachings of the Omaha tribal circle and will gain a fuller understanding of their relationships to the earth and sky and water. She creates an atmosphere for all learners to honor other cultural viewpoints, to appreciate a sense of place, and to become aware of a shared responsibility for the environment through creative writing and poetry. Renee is a teaching artist with the Leeds Center for Performing Arts and has been on the Leeds artist roster since 2009. That's a performing arts space here in Lincoln. Renee is also committed to serving her community by creating awareness about the crisis of #MMIW, missing and murdered Indigenous women, in Nebraska and on Turtle Island. She serves on the Nebraska Native Women's Task Force. So without further ado, and I appreciate your patience with my furtiveness in the introduction, allow me to welcome and allow CPED to welcome Renee Souci.
Well, good afternoon. It's good to see everyone. In my language, I say Ewe de Wongide, which means all my relations. And usually that's how I begin when I do any kind of speaking presentation. So, part of my teaching is that whenever I'm doing anything like this, I have to give like a short formal introduction, self-introduction. And this was my mother's teachings. So this is how I begin. Let me introduce myself. Maha jaje witate shonge hube wa'u. Wahe jaje witate Renee Souci. Maha wa'ubli. So what I said was, let me introduce myself. My Omaha name is Sacred Horsewoman. My English name is Renee Souci. I am an Omaha woman. So what this does is to let you know exactly who I am. And whenever I go amongst other tribal nations, this is what I do. But not only do I do that, they also do that, because we all have a similar teaching. The self-introduction serves as a purpose of letting people know not only what tribe and nation, territory that we come from, it also gives people an understanding of how we're related. So immediately when we do that, people that may be in the audience will say, oh, okay, I know somebody from her tribe, and this is what I know about them. Okay, or my cousin or my relative is married to somebody from her tribe. That means we have some kind of relationship. So immediately that's what it goes to, because always when we're doing things, it's always about relationship. This is what we're seeking all the time. So that introduction was short and sweet, because believe me, it can go further. With my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, so forth, where I live, what I do, how I work, that kind of thing. But I just kept it very short. So in Omaha, the Omaha language, I am a member of the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. This is what we say to the people whenever they come to our territory. We say, Latite udon, it's good you're here. That's a way of welcoming the people that are coming to our land. What I wanted to share in that welcome are, having visited with Ted last week, we had gone over some of the points that, I'd like to make while I'm giving this welcome. And, as anything, I always, I can never stop being humorous. That was, as somebody who's a descendant of survivors of genocide, this is one of our main ways of coping, humor. Native humor is well known throughout this country. And we, will continuously do that. We're not like the stoic stereotype that you might see on TV or whatever you might see. We're always going to laugh about something. So, I want you to know where you're at, first of all. And I always say to people, I bet you know some native language and you don't even know it. So when people look at me and go, what? I bet you know Omaha even. They go, what? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. How many of you know the word Nebraska? Raise your hands. All right, that's one. Okay, so Nebraska, in our language, what we say is Ni Blaska. Ni is water, Blaska is flat. Now that was the name for the Platte River. Of course, the French called it the Platte, because it was flat also. But that was our name for the Platte River, which runs, right across Nebraska. A lot of history behind that river. And the tribes here in Nebraska, we always stayed close to the rivers because we knew this land. So Nebraska, you know one. What's another word you might know? How many of you know about the city of Omaha? Raise your hand. Okay, that's another word. That's Omaha in our language. Omaha, which means against the current. Because when we were coming to this land from the south, we were coming upriver, coming up against the current. Our sister tribe in Oklahoma is the Quapaw. We say Gahpa in the Omaha language, means they went downstream with the current. So we speak very similar languages. So you know at least 2 Omaha words. Yeah, so you can't deny that you don't know some native language. In the tribes, in our historical view of this land, we look at this and say, okay, we don't look at it as a state. And that's what I want to also let you know. Most indigenous people here, when we say Turtle Island, we're talking about the entire continent, which includes Mexico, Canada. And we're saying everybody who's indigenous to Turtle Island, we're not looking at states or countries, we're looking at territories. This is how we think. So in our minds, we're like, we might say Nebraska, but we're thinking, okay, whose territory am I in? So originally, this was Oto land, Oto, Missouri, Iowa. They're now a little bit further south, near the Kansas border, and in Kansas. Kansas is also a native word. Who knew that, right? So that also comes from, what we say, the Conze, the wind people. Kansas, the Kansa is another word for what they call them. We have all these, we know this land, these territories, these languages. And regardless, however you look at it, you're still speaking an indigenous language when you're saying these states or cities. Doesn't matter. So the tribes here in Nebraska, which is the Omaha, the Winnebago or the Ho-Chunk, the Isanti Dakota, the Ponca, which is another sister tribe of ours, and the Oto Missouri, as I mentioned earlier, of whose land we're on. We are all in the east here. We have the Pawnee, the Arikara, that were once in central Nebraska, and then out in the east, or in the west, the Panhandle, we have the Oglala and the Sichaku. These are the Lakota bands. So we have a wide variety of people, all speaking different languages here. But not only that, the land is so diverse. So I was saying that to my daughter on our way over. I said, yeah, we have snow in the west, and we'll have flooding here on the eastern side. We can have here in Lincoln, 100-degree temperature, and the next day it'll be 50 degrees cooler. There's no end to what you will see here, not only with the weather, but in what you see with the land. So now, in speaking about the land and for the land, I want you to consider where you're at. Close your eyes for a minute. Take a deep breath. Okay, you're here. You're probably not familiar with Lincoln. Lincoln is what we, in the Omaha language, we already have a name for it. Niskithe. Niskithe means, again, ni being water, and skithe can mean salt or sugar, sweet. So our name for Lincoln, Niskithe, has to do with Salt Creek, which runs right through town here. Salt Creek is where it was a land of commons where all the tribes have come to harvest salt. So for us, these place names that have already been here before colonization, as we'd say, that is our markers. That's how we relate to the land. So when you think of Lincoln, now I'm gonna make you think about that and remember Niskithe, Salt Town. Niskithe Tomo, Salt Town. It's good you're here in Niskithe Tomo. So the other part of this I can tell you about corn. Everybody knows Cornhuskers, right? You all know Cornhuskers? We can't deny that, again, that we don't know who the Cornhuskers are. And I'm not wearing a red skirt because of the Cornhusker Nation, But I'll go into that a little bit. But Cornhuskers, now that's a name that came along, and the only way I can describe it is like it was subverted from our original intent. Because what is growing here now is, yes, a lot of corn, but I don't know how it's growing now because of all the flooding. But what it has, been in the past has been this kind of corn that we would say is, GMO corn. It's all been bred out of the indigenous corn and indigenous strains that were here. So a lot of the tribes, we still hang on to our indigenous strains, our heirloom seeds. We guard them like this. Those are ours. They're not going to give them over. The seeds have a lot of history here in this state, but throughout Turtle Island again, because we traded constantly. So the corn, when it came to us, to the Omahas, it came from the Arikara and Pawnee people as gifts for our alliances that we created long ago. So when we think about corn, when I think about corn, I'm thinking about native corn, indigenous corn, because I can eat that every single day. I'm not thinking about the yellow corn or the canned corn. I'm thinking about the blue corn, that my parents grew, the white corn. All of those strains that once grew here, that now are in, like I said, in cereal plots here and there. The Pawnees are growing their corn, which would not grow in Oklahoma, where they were forced marched down to. Does not grow down here, but grows up here. Roger Welsh, whom I call Uncle Roger, is now part of that process of restoring the Pawnee corn. So it's, something to see. I like Uncle Roger's humor, because he understands in a lot of ways of how natives think. And he lived here in Lincoln for a long time, because I grew up knowing him. Not knowing who he was or what he did as a writer, but knowing him, because my mom had a close relationship with him, so we would go and visit with him. And then later, in the years, I found out that my grandpa had actually adopted him in ceremony. So I said, oh, well, okay then, you are my uncle. Relationship again. So when you're here in Nebraska, you're thinking about the land. You're not only thinking about the corn, but now I'm reminding you, what was the corn really like before? But you're also thinking about the beauty of this land. A lot of people have, again, this, I don't know what they call that word, maybe another stereotype, I guess, of Nebraska, that they just come down through the I-80 corridor and all they see is flat land, don't see anything else. And I'm always telling people, hold on a minute, you haven't even seen our land. So where my tribe is now living in northeast Nebraska, that is some of the most beautiful land you will see. And I don't care where I go in the world, I'm always glad to go back and be up in the hills on the Omaha Reservation. That is one of my most favorite places here on earth. So when you see the land, you're thinking about the biodiverse existence of all the plants that are here. In some places, again, like I said, not everything is as diverse as we hope, because, a lot of the things that are here. But what the beauty that is here, I want you to imagine that. I know that a lot of you won't have that opportunity to go out and see Nebraska. So when you're imagining and looking at what this landscape holds, again, you're going to see, like out west, it's like a desert. Then out east here, you have the bluffs and the fertile valleys, that are close to the rivers. And in between, you have another sort of landscape that, again, if you're just driving through, you can't really tell. How many of you know that the cranes fly through here? That comes, that happens every year. And that's when everybody descends in central Nebraska around Grand Island and Convening to see the cranes, the flyway. So you're thinking about the biodiversity of the plants, the land, but also you're thinking about the kind of animals that come through here. This was once a place that was also home to all the buffaloes. All the tribes, again, would hunt the buffaloes. This is what helped us to flourish and maintain our way of life, because we did have a solid, sustainable lifeway. So as such, as you are here, I teach about Inoha Mojon-ie. Inoha Mojon-ie means Mother Earth, the language of Mother Earth. And this is what I teach children when I'm working with them. Children of all nations. So back to Niski then, you're here in Lincoln. So as the new slogan says, Nebraska, it's not for everybody. I don't know what came up with that. Then I'm like, maybe we should have said that long ago when they were coming up. So I want you to remember what I said, while you're here, take it all in. This is a beautiful land. I don't know if you're going to have much contact with indigenous people of any of the tribes. I'm here, definitely, But thank you so much. I want to leave you with this other thought, because one of my sisters, she's from the Ponca Nation in Oklahoma. They too were forced marched down to Oklahoma from here, from Niobrara up in northeast Nebraska. And what she always says when she speaks is, she says, we cannot separate the language from the land. Keep that in mind when I said, what words do you know? Nebraska. So this is home for a lot of people, but for our tribes, this is home. Nebraska. Weebaha, I thank you. All my relations. Thank you.